What is the state of the Pokemon market today? We are going to go over our second part of the two-part series. I might be doing a third one, possibly solely on the Sun and Moon Era. Maybe all those little like alt arts from like Team Up and all those things. But I'm not too sure. Maybe that'll be a separate video, considering this is already part 2 of 2, right? So if you haven't seen the last video, I would suggest to go back and watch it. There we covered alternate arts from the Sword and Shield era, full art trainers in general, and trainer gallery cards. Today we are going to be focusing on illustration rare Pokemon, secret illustration rare Pokemon, and secret illustration rare trainers from obviously the Scarlet and Violet era. Now, a couple things to talk about real quick. First off, we are not going to be going over the specialty sets like Pokemon 151 and of course Paldean Fates. Reason being is that because if I did that, that's what we'd just be talking about nonstop. So if you guys want to see that stuff, I can make a separate video specifically on like Pokemon 151, Pokemon Paldean Fates. But if I just do that, throw them in, you're not going to see anything from the other Scarlet and Violet sets. With that being said, another thing to talk about is that we are going to be doing top 5s for this. Reason being is it's Scarlet and Violet. A lot of these cards are going to be dropped in price. A lot of these cards aren't going to be holding too much value because of just how Scarlet and Violet was in the beginning. You're probably going to see a lot of cards from the most recent sets like Paradox Rift, Paldean Evolved, maybe Obsidian Flames, depending. And if we're really lucky, we might get some Scarlet Violet base. But it's just going to be a 1 through 5. Hopefully this will be a shorter video unless I just keep fucking yapping 24/7. But then also we will be going over the Galarian Gallery from Crown Zenith. Figured I'd throw that out there. And if, again, like the specialty sets, if y'all like it, I will do a specific video for Crown Zenith in general. Starting off with Crown Zenith, in our 5th spot we have the Darkrai V-Star sitting at 1610. Its lowest point was in December of last year at 1406, and its highest point was in March at 2768. This card unfortunately just has been going down in price, which is kind of typical. Crown Zenith kind of got a little bit of a reprint in the booster bundles, which was a random release. I was not expecting us to get booster bundles of Crown Zenith, but it's a really great product because most of the booster bundles are what people want. They just want the packs, and Crown Zenith being such a amazing set, a really great set, I think personally, to invest in because of just all the hits. If you could hear a lot of banging and music, it's because my mom is going ape shit downstairs. But besides that, this card has gone a little bit up from December, really only $2. This probably might be the medium as of now where these cards sit until probably a couple years later. Who knows? Maybe if Crown Zenith has a resurgence for some weird reason. I wouldn't expect it. But if it does, you'll probably see these cards start to go up. Again, there's really no reason for them to go up because Crown Zenith is still widely available. We'll just have to see how the future takes it. In our 4th spot, we have the Ryoku V. Funny enough, it's surpassing the Entei V and the Suicune V. Surprising. But this card currently sits at $16.75, which is its lowest price today. Its highest point was in April at $25.24, and then unfortunately just been falling, as most of these Crown Zenith cards will do. Another thing is the prices that I'm going over have only had a span of a year, so that's kind of what I'm talking about. I probably didn't specify that last video because I'm an idiot. But if you're wondering like, oh, this card was this price 2 something years ago, well, I'm doing it from a year ago. So quit sucking me. Suck me, I don't know. In our 3rd spot, we have the Glaceon V-Star sitting at 1702. Its lowest point was actually this past January 2024, going for $15.80. Its highest point was in March of last year at $29.84. Which, if I remember correctly, I think Crown Zenith came out early last year, so these prices could be, at least, you know, if you see March, from when they first came out. But that's the one thing with Crown Zenith, when these cards came out, they were very, very high in price. Now it's been a year, and you could just see how they've lowered in price. In our second spot, we have the Leafeon V-Star sitting at $20.89. Its lowest point was in November of last year at $18.86. And its highest point was also in March at $37.11. Basically dropped $20 from March to November and then went up a couple dollars. This will probably be, like I said, their median for a while. You might see this card just go up a couple dollars. You might see it drop a couple dollars. You know, whether these cards are going to hit $5, I highly doubt that. But these are probably a good buying range to get them as of right now because they're not going anywhere. They're not really moving. And I can't see them just fucking collapsing in price unless Pokemon just whips out another reprint out of their ass, which they could do. But I don't think they will because they have the yellow bordering and we now move to the silver bordering, blah, blah, blah. In our first spot, we have the Mewtwo V-Star sitting at $46.71. It is currently the lowest price today. In March was sitting at $91.98, almost $100, and has dropped practically 50, 55. Pretty ridiculous. Definitely a good price to get this card out. Now, obviously, I'm not going to be going over the gold ones because obviously if I did the golds like the Arceus V-Star Gold, Giratina V-Star Gold, Palkia Dialga, then that's what this whole list is going to be. But again, like I said, if you guys like this and you want me to do like a whole Crown Zenith thing, then I'll include everything. Now, getting into the dreaded Scarlet and Violet era, this is basically going to be a turf war that you will notice between Paldean Evolved and Paradox Rift. Paldean Evolved basically is just the powerhouse with a shit ton of hits, and Paradox Rift is the newest like main set. So you're just going to see some back and forth, really. You will see an Obsidian Flames card, crazy, and you will see a Scarlet and Violet base. Very rare to see it on the top 5 charts, but you will see it. Starting off with our Illustration Rare Cards, we have the Steelix from Paradox Rift sitting at $12.12. In December of this past year was at $9.30 for its lowest. And then in October, which was its release, was at its highest point at $13.32. This card is a really dope card, basically depicting a Steelix scaling a fucking skyscraper. Could bring it down would be like one of the most like terroristic attacks in Pokemon if like just a Steelix went in and just started destroying towers. Would be pretty ridiculous. Thank God that doesn't happen, but it is an angry Pokemon, so it could happen in Pokemon lore. This card really hasn't done all too much movement. It's gone down from release and then slowly went back up, but we're talking a couple dollars, so it really isn't that big of a movement, I guess. Then in our fourth spot, we have the Tyranitar from Paldea Evolved sitting at $17.91. Hit its lowest point in January of this past year at $16.56. And then its highest point was in June at $46.22. On release, this card was sitting around its current $16, $17 mark, and then just out of nowhere, people were like, oh my god, it's Tyranitar. And the fucking thing just shot through the roof at around $46. And then when people finally got their heads screwed back on, they're like, oh, it's only Tyranitar. And then it just dropped back down again to where it is today. So had definitely a bit of a movement, but definitely not as bad as one of them, spoiler alert, from this set, but we'll get to that eventually. In our third spot, we have the Raichu from Paldea Evolved as well. This card currently sits at $19.80. In May of its release, it was at its lowest point at $15.30. And then crazy enough, a week later, it shot up to $23.69, a little over $5 in June. Of course, has been just kind of moving all over the place and finally landed around $20. So really, it's only gone like a couple dollars up past 20, a couple dollars under 20. Hasn't really been moving all that much, but again, it is an illustration card, which is basically like your trainer gallery card, so it's not going to do anything too crazy. I'd be surprised if it really did. It's still a gorgeous card of Raichu sleeping, passed out from a long day of drinking at the bars, and I don't know what Raichu does in spare time, but it definitely parties. Probably gets a lot of puss. In our second spot, we have Godzilla himself, Groudon, the legendary, sitting at 28.34 from Paradox Rift. This card hit its lowest point on release, believe it or not, in October at 22.50, and then a week later was like, fuck it, we ball, and shot up to $40.67 in October, which was its highest point, and then of course just fell back down again because fuck it, we ball only lasts so long. Game is game. This card is a really gorgeous card. I love the legendaries. I could have swore they did one of Kyogre, but I guess not, because if so, it would be on this list. Kyogre is my favorite out of Groudon and Rayquaza. I don't know if it beats Kyogre. I don't know. That'd be tough. It's a gorgeous card, but it might continue to fall a little bit. I can see this card go around $20. Will it continue to grow? Probably not. That's one of the things this, from Paradox Rift, is these cards are still at a pretty high point. In a couple months, these cards are probably going to fall even lower. They aren't going to hit like $5, like I said. It'll just stay probably around the $20 range, maybe even $15 if it really drops that low. In our first spot, we have the disgusting fish himself, the only Pokemon that can do splash and like basically jerk off the opponent's Pokemon doing no damage, Magikarp.
It's Magikarp! Do you understand what this aquatic abomination is capable of? Laugh at its splash, and it'll be splashing in your blood. Tackle! Did you know that Magikarp's fins are hard enough to cut diamond? Do you know what your ass isn't made of? Diamonds!
This one really fucks with my brain. I hate this so much. This card currently goes for $68.21 from Paldean Evolved. In May of its release was sitting at $27.50, and for God knows what reason people were like, this is the card, and a week later it shot up to $78.08 in June, and that is the highest point it's ever reached. It dropped like it dropped like $10-15 and then slowly just climbed a bit to where it is now at $68.21. This card is fucking ridiculous. I don't know if there was like a short print run of this. I don't know how anyone would even tell if there were, but the fact that this card is sitting at $70 and it's just an illustration rare is fucking disgusting.
Shiny Magikarp is 100% solid gold. How does that even work? Who fucking cares?
It really just annoys the living shit out of me because I want this card. I need this card to complete my illustration set. And I'm not dropping $70 on a fucking Magikarp card. If it was a Magikarp Gold Star, I would understand. Like, that should only be the card that is, like, very expensive with Magikarp. That or, like, maybe the Sun and Moon Alt-Art. That's it. Magikarp should not be an expensive card. The scary thing is, I don't even know if this card's gonna drop in value. Because it's one of those things when a card just shoots up in price and a lot of people say, well, $80 is its price. When you see it go down, like, it rarely goes down a little bit. And even then, like, people who have the Magikarp, if this card goes down to $40 by some miracle, people are probably not going to sell it at 40. Maybe your, like, sellers, your flippers, things like that will, because they just want to get rid of it. But, like, if you had this card that was sitting at $80 and it dropped down to, like, 20, are you really gonna sell it? Like, I'd just fucking hold on to it at that point. Like, that's a loss of 60. I guess if you pulled it, it's not a loss in general, but to buy that card at such a high price, I don't know, it's ridiculous. I will not buy this card. I will never finish my fucking set unless I just rob someone point blank at this card, go to a fucking card store, like, knock somebody out, grab the card, run, get caught by the police and go to jail for trying to get a $80 Magikarp card. You might see him on the news. Now, getting into the fun one, we have the Secret Illustration Rare Pokemon. Basically, your alternate arts in the new era. This is really, really crazy how these been going, because you would think, they're alt arts in a way. Of course, they're going to hold high value. And Scarlet Violet has not been the case, man. These cards have been cheap. There are alt arts that you can find for like $1. And maybe that's not surprising because there's some in Sword and Shield that are only worth like $3-5, maybe $10. But the fact that there's a secret illustration rare that's $1 is pretty ridiculous, and I think part of that does happen because of the pull rates and the fact that when Scarlet and Violet base came out, everyone was pulling the cards left and right. Like, Pokemon was just, you get a secret illustration rare, you get a fucking secret illustration rare, the kid in the back, you get one. Like, they just gave it out to everybody like Oprah. What we're gonna see are the top 5 cards that have somehow defined the odds. Not really, because you can guess what sets these are going to come from. In our 5th spot, we have the Altaria EX card from Paradox Rift, sitting at $22.36. This is the current lowest price as of right now. Was sitting at $29.98 in October, which was its release. So it's only went down a couple dollars. This card will continue to go down a couple dollars. For some reason, I had to Google when Paradox Rift came out, because for some reason, I feel like Paradox Rift came out this year. Was not expecting it to come out in the beginning of November, end of October. That's pretty crazy. This card will continue to go down in price, I can imagine, as more sets come out. These sets just tend to just go down. There might be some cards that actually hold the test of time, which we'll see in a couple, but basically how you want to go about it is you want to wait for at least a couple more sets to release, and then usually those sets that you had previously will be at their lowest point. So for instance, if Paradox Rift comes out and then they release Jubilee Sex Worker, I don't know, and then they release Canatopia Comlord set, then this set of Paradox Rift will be at its lowest point. In our 4th spot, we have the most disturbing secret illustration rare card that I never thought would be this expensive. It's the Golden Go EX, don't even know if I pronounced that right, sitting at $30.31. In December, it hit its lowest point at $28.44, and crazy enough, on release, this card was sitting at $86.46. This card is fucking disgusting looking. Like, when I pulled this card out of Paradox Rift, I think it was a booster box, and I was like, what the fuck is this? I thought this card was like $5. $30 for this card, originally $86. This card has done like, but it's still sitting higher than Altaria, which is like a gorgeous card. Like, I fuck with Altaria. So that just had me shocked. Shit, man, I prefer the Tapu Koko over this card. It shocks me that it's this much. But again, as time goes, I can see this card continuing to fall. Maybe $20, could fall even to 15. Who knows? Then in our 3rd spot, we have the Iron Valiant EX, a Pokemon that Pokemon just made the fuck up out of nowhere. This card currently goes for $30.43, which is its lowest price of the year. In November of its release, it was at $71.21, so basically dropped a whole $40. Pretty ridiculous, but it is a really cool card, I will admit. I love this card. Definitely am going to wait for this card to continue to drop in price before I jump on it. With these cards, I can almost guarantee to a degree that they will drop. If you just look at Paldean Evolved, a lot of their Alt-Art's secret illustration rare cards have dropped to like $10-15 as of right now, and those cards were sitting in the $30 range. So it's only a matter of time before these cards drop. I would be absolutely shocked if they go up. They probably will fall. So if you're gonna buy these, I would just wait until they continue to fall. But again, like we talked about in the other part, is that you don't want to like risk it. If you think it's a good price, you might as well just buy it, because if it goes up, you're fucked. But this is Scarlet and Violet, so all rules just go right out the window. In our 2nd spot, we have the Crystallized Charizard EX sitting at $49.52, which is its current lowest price today from Obsidian Flames. In July, it hit its highest point on release at $225.79. This fucking Charizard took a fat shit and just got tossed. Like, it really dropped heavily. But listen, though, that was like on release prices. A lot of people were thinking Obsidian Flames was going to be an insane set. All it became was a shitty Charizard set. And not even shitty, because it was a really good set, but not a lot of value outside of the Charizards. Unfortunately, a lot of the illustration cards were just kind of lame. I think they only had like 10 illustration cards compared to like Paldea Evolved's fucking 100 illustration rares. They're like, oh, we're just gonna slow down, which was fucking wild. But this card is one of those exception cards where you would think like over the time this card would just drop to 20, 30, maybe 15, and it didn't. It's holding close to $50, and that's what I think. You know, you might have some of these cards in the newer sets that might still hold their value, which is our current number one spot, the Roaring Moon EX, sitting at 61.88 from Paradox Rift. Its lowest point was actually this past month in February at 57.11, and its highest point was in October of last year on release at $114.16. Every time I say on release, I either say October, November. Just know it was like end October, early November was the release, so that's why they're like together. But this card is one of those cards that I can see acts like the Charizard. It drops, it's gonna drop, but it's not gonna drop by a lot. I could see this card staying around $40 at the least, but who am I to say this card can continue to drop? It's another Pokemon that Pokemon just fucking had a dream about and was like, send it, full send, fuck it. Again, as more sets come out, we could continue to see all these cards just fall in price. If Charizard actually hits $20, I will be shocked. I really don't see that happening, but you never know at this point. And finally, to end my suffering, my pain, we have these Secret Illustration Rare Full Art Trainers. This is going to be a fun one because you know how I love full art trainers. In our fifth spot, we have the Grusha Full Art sitting at $13.14 from Paldea Evolved. This card is a gorgeous card. Basically showcases Starly freezing to death outside while Grusha looks out the window and gazes at the stars. He does not give a shit. I think it's a he. That's what they said. I still can't believe it to this day because it's like, yeah, you would never think. But heck, we're in 2024.
What will you achieve? With you will be your Pokemon.
Its lowest point was in January a couple months ago at $11.20, and its highest point was in June at $21.03. So this card went up a little bit from release and then just dropped. Really only dropped $10, if that. So it's not too bad of a drop, but definitely this might be the lowest we see this card go. Sure, there have been Secret Illustration Rare cards that have gone as low as $5, $3, possibly $1 if you're fucking lucky. But anyways, these Secret Illustration cards are absolutely gorgeous. The art, the glittering foil, I love it so much that I really think these cards can hold value in the future. I've been buying a lot of Secret Illustration Rare cards that are around like $5 or less because why the fuck not? They're Secret Illustration Rares, meaning they're hard cards to pull. Supposedly. Like, that's how Pokemon markets it. It has two fucking gold stars at the bottom. Or three, I don't know. But they're absolutely gorgeous cards, and to say that this card's $5 is just ridiculous. In our fourth spot, we have the Professor Sada's Virginity, or Vitality, Fertility, whatever you call it, I guess, sitting at $18.29 from Paradox Rift. This is the lowest point it's been at since release. Its highest point was at $39.66 in October of its release. So this card has practically dropped $25, maybe if I'm doing my math right. Maybe a little bit less than 25, maybe like $23, $22, which is still a lot. And because it's Paradox Rift, we are going to see this card continue to drop. I wouldn't be surprised if this card actually hits $10. It probably will. As hot as Professor Sada is, she's a robot. And from the Helldivers themselves, if you find this woman hot, you are committing treason.
The socialist automatons terrorize innocent families. Babes are torn from their mothers. Voters from their ballots.
I will report you to your higher officer, and you will be shot on sight. Oh, Bobby. In our third spot, we have the Parasol Lady sitting at $21.58 from Paradox Rift, of course. Currently, just like the Sada, it is at its lowest point today. At its highest point was sitting at $39.88 in October on release, kind of just like the Professor Sada. So what you see, this card continued to drop, basically following exactly like Professor Sada. They're just dropping. And again, this is a card that I can see in a couple months fall down to $10, maybe a little bit more, kind of like how the Grusha is still holding at 13. I could see these cards going to 15, really, honest to God. So I wouldn't waste your breath. But again, like, if you're waiting for 15 and you find this card for 20, you know, is $5 gonna really be your mountain that you're gonna fucking die on? Maybe. It will be mine, because I do that all the fucking time. In our second spot, we finally get to showcase a Scarlet and Violet base set card. The only one you're gonna see on this list. It is the Miriam full art, sitting at $27.39. This card currently is, again, just like the past two, it's the lowest point it's been in a whole year. On its release in March was at its highest point at $265. Absolutely fucking ridiculous. Imagine paying that much money just to find out this card is not even like $30. Ridiculous. I remember I actually fucked up with this card. I bought this card. I hope he's not watching. He probably isn't. But I bought this card from a seller in one of the Discords that I'm in. And I bought it with a Rainbow Charizard from Brilliant Stars. I think I paid $100 for both of them. Because at the time the Charizard was, I think, around 60 and the Miriam was around 40. So I was like, all right, you know, this is a good price, I'll buy it. And you know, now it's dropped like $13, and I think the Rainbow Charizard has probably dropped since. So I definitely got shafted on that deal. Talk about FOMO. I fucking FOMO all the time. Like, it's tough for me to tell you with a straight face, don't buy it, it will go down in value, I promise. And I cringe because I'm like, oh, I need it. I still need it. I don't give a shit if it's going to go down. I need it because you never know. And that's why I try to say with these, you know, videos is that you make your own decisions. You choose what you want to buy, when you want to buy it, at what price you want to buy it, because I could tell you all I can. I could, like, you know, tell you what the highest lowest is, but what does that mean in the long run? You know, when you look at the stock market, fucking billionaires control it all the time, and I'm sure that there are some people in the Pokemon community that control the markets of some cards. We've seen it before in buyouts. We'll see it again in the future. Maybe not Scarlet Violet, who knows. In our final spot, I'm sure you can guess what we got. It is the Iono full art from Paldean Evolved, sitting at $76.97. In February of this past year was sitting at $75.40, which was its lowest point, and then its highest point was in May on release at $174.69. This card was a card that was close to 200, dropped down to 100, and honestly, that's where I thought this card was gonna stay. It was one of the first times that we really saw a full art trainer hang around $100, because I remember when Scarlet Violet base came out, the Miriam dropped pretty fast, and it was hanging around 50, and it was going from, like, I think, was it like 100 to 80 to 60 to 50 to 40. Now it's at like 30. So it was just dropping over time very quickly. When, you know, Paldean Evolved came out, we're seeing Iono past $100, and it made sense why. It was a gorgeous card. One of the best full art trainers from the Scarlet and Violet era. Really gives Sword and Shield a run for its money, because you can almost say it's better than any full art trainer from the Sword and Shield era. Obviously not better than the Friends and Galar and those cards, but still a really, really gorgeous full art trainer. And the glitter and the art, oh my god, I could fucking like just drool over that card. It is so pretty, and one of the cards that I really think would hold a high value, kind of like the Lily in a weird way. I'm not like comparing the two, but I am. Alright, so I think personally this card will probably be the most expensive full art trainer that comes out of the Scarlet and Violet era, unless for some reason they release another crazy card. Either way, this card is absolutely gorgeous and just reminds me of how crazy the Lily card is from the Sun and Moon era. Will it ever reach that point? Hell no. By the time it ever hits like 500, if it does, I imagine Lily's probably in the thousands. But still, sitting at $75 is not really bad for where this card's at. Honestly, if you're looking to buy this card, I don't know what to do. I really don't. I don't know how to help you with this because at $75, I can honestly see this card drop possibly a little bit. Do I think it's going to drop? No, but like I can see it continuing to drop a little bit. Do I want it to drop? No, because I do want it to hold a high value. It's kind of funny. I actually did pull this card, believe it or not. I was at work in a small little like 10 by 10 shack, 5 by 5, whatever the fuck you call it, at my security job. And I was like buying a bunch of Paldean Evolved stuff from Target because I was like, I got ready a lot earlier than I was planning on it. I'm like, I'm not gonna let this fuck, like my employee that I work with, get out early. Like I'm just gonna buy. I went to Target to fuck around. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna buy some stuff, have some fun, open some packs. And then, you know, I bought some stuff. I was driving over and I'm thinking in my head, you know, man, should I open this or should I like wait to make a video on it? Because at the time I was still trying to like put out videos of stuff, and in my head I was like, nah, I'm gonna be bored for like 12 hours. It's a 12-hour shift in this fucking 5x5 building. When I say 5x5, it's like so in my head I was like, ah, fuck it, I need something to do. So I bought it and I started opening the packs and I pulled it and I was just fucking going nuts. I really wish I recorded it, unfortunately I didn't. Didn't have any sleeves or top loaders. That fucking sucked, so I had to be very delicate with it, but I was really, really glad I pulled it. And it's one of those things that it's kind of like biasy. Is biasy even a word? Bias that like, because you pull a card and you have it and now you want it to like go up in value and stay high, and you don't want it low for the other people that don't have it. But then when there's a card you don't have, you want it to drop down and not stay high. So there's some bias to me with that, but I mean, that's the thing. I don't want it to go down in value, but will it? I think it really could, to be honest with you, because just like previous cards, they're kind of going down. You would think that the Charizard and Obsidian Flames would kind of stay a high price and be the one card out of that set that doesn't move, but we're still seeing it's falling down under $50. So with this card, I can still see it drop a little bit. Where? Maybe $60 could be. Really, if at the lowest, I could see it at $50. But again, it's such a gorgeous card. I don't know. It's very, very tough. I can see it dropping. I don't want it to drop. That's the thing. I don't expect it to drop, but I can see it drop. So I'm having an aneurysm right now. So you take that with what you want. But with that said, that is the end of the video. The part 2, the finalizer of this 2-part series, looking at the state of the market today. Hope you guys really liked this video, thought it was somewhat helpful. It really wasn't, because I'm pretty sure that most of you could see that Scarlet and Violet is just going to continue to drop from a mile away. It is what it is. But I really had fun making this video, so I really enjoyed it. If you guys are interested, I can do more of these and more specialty ones, looking over a full entire set. For instance, like Paldean Fates, Pokemon 151, Crown Zenith, and then eventually I do want to get into like Sun and Moon and do like the alt arts for that are kind of like during the team up era. So I'm kind of hoping I could do that, but it was pretty enjoyable. And crazy enough, I did actually make a Pokemon 151, not video, but I wrote the whole script out and did like a bunch of research on the cards. And then I probably said this before, and then like literally a day or two before I was going to start recording for it, I saw that another big YouTuber, way bigger than me, made a video talking about the value of Pokemon 151. And in my head, I was like, fuck, man, he beat me to it. I can't put this out. People are going to be like, oh, you're copying off of him. I don't know. So that kind of hurt, but I can do it now because I think he's stopped. I don't know. He might be still going. He's still pumping, I'm sure. But, yeah. So, I hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you had a lovely weekend. I'm actually making this video like a week before I release it. I was trying to do it sooner, but work's been so busy that I haven't been able to. So, oh, Bobby.